Well, it is all falling apart now for Prince Harry. Shocking new details about an apparently abusive email that he sent to the charity boss over Meghan Markle in just a moment. But first, news of
Prince Harry is raging, Meghan is paranoid, and Piers Morgan, he's stirring the pot again. In today's explosive royal drama, the Sussexes are caught in a storm, and this time it's personal. The feud that's just erupted has left even senior royals in shock.
a really bizarre fallout with one of the only women in the royal family who stayed loyal to him, Princess Eugenie, because another man came between these two cousins in the form of Piers Morgan. Fascinating. And this is really going to shake things up within the royal family. Analysis from Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, in just a moment. But first, let me take you through this reporting that was revealed in The Sun over the weekend. Now, if you're a regular viewer of Outspoken, you will know I first pointed to these shocking pictures of Eugenie and Piers and the impact that it had on Harry and Meghan a number of months ago. But it has gone mainstream now in a fascinating feature by The Sun's royal editor, Matt Wilkinson, headlined Going Spare. Inside, forlorn and isolated Harry's life as spare to Meghan, and how he only heard about King's hospital visit on the news. So this reporting, which has been absolutely overshadowed by the very legitimate story regarding the Centre Bali charity, is really worth getting into. The Sun reports Prince Harry only heard his father was in hospital with side effects from his cancer treatment at the same time as the rest of the world when the news broke on Thursday evening, which just about sums up how isolated and lonely the Duke of Sussex has become, as Monday, today, marks the 5th anniversary of Megxit. Even his cousin, Princess Eugenie, his last remaining royal ally, has been cast out by the paranoid prince. Insiders say lonely Harry rarely leaves the couple's mansion in Montecito, and while Meghan strides forward with her lifestyle and podcast projects, he has no plans for any new filming with Netflix. The Sun understands he was not told about his father's hospital admission because the palace did not want to cause unnecessary alarm by contacting Harry 5,000 miles away. I'll translate that for you. What that really means is they didn't want Prince Harry to leak the information to the media. They don't trust this guy anymore, and they certainly don't trust his wife. But The Sun goes on that it is understood that the friendship with Eugenie floundered after she was photographed last April with Piers Morgan, a strong critic of Harry and Meghan. A friend said a dim view was taken of this as Piers had clashed with Meghan and Harry in the past. Understatement of the year. Eugenie has been supportive of Harry and Meghan for years and was right there at the beginning of their relationship, but it has now soured. The Sun also reveals that Harry has barely spoken to his family in years as he grows increasingly alone in California while Meghan launches a series of glitzy, heavily promoted solo projects. An insider told The Sun, first he was a spare to William, now he's increasingly looking like a spare to Meghan, and it's not a great look.
What did Piers say this time? Why are Meghan and Harry scrambling behind the scenes? And how is Buckingham Palace reacting? Let's break it all down. Just days ago, Piers Morgan unleashed a fiery tirade aimed directly at Meghan and Harry on live television.
It is also understood that there are no plans for any more Netflix shows with Harry, either in front or behind the camera, as the deal runs out. So, Brittany, we have a huge amount of breaking news to go through today. But firstly, how fascinating that it was Piers Morgan, the other man, who came between Eugenie, Harry, and Meghan. What do you make of it?
I do have to say it's a little bit of a surprise, but you got to think too, Prince Harry has left the UK, Dan. He is in the United States. And obviously Piers Morgan is somebody who they can interact with. He is somebody who's sort of in that sphere. And so if they have chats and are familiar with him, I think that's totally fine. And Harry should not be threatened by that because he has purposely removed himself from the situation. But I always thought when it came to Harry potentially reconciling with his family, now that doesn't mean necessarily that everything goes back to the way it was by any stretch of the imagination. But I always thought it was kind of good that Princess Eugenie was there, maybe as a bit of a lifeline in case Prince Harry was like really saying, "Hey, I need a life preserver. Please come help and save me." And that she could have been a bit of that link. So I think that he has lost that. I think just compounds the loneliness and isolation that I'm sure he does feel. Now, this is all self inflicted, but at the same time, I do feel a bit sorry for him in some ways because it can't be easy. And I think he was definitely dragged by Meghan to the United States under very false assumptions, and everything has sort of turned rotten. Nothing is better when you go to the other side looking for better green grass and all you're chasing really is green money. It just tends to turn brown.
Let me tell you, I don't feel sorry for him one bit because the way he treated his family, I think, means that this is karma. It's interesting, the Eugenie thing, though, because I've reported on this for a number of years. So, firstly, you have to remember that she was disgusted, and Beatrice was disgusted too by the Oprah Winfrey interview. And at that point, they were openly scathing of Harry and Meghan. But I think they understood that there were a couple of reasons why it was good for them to be, as you say, a conduit between Montecito and Buckingham Palace. There was a slight ulterior motive, though, Brittany, and I'm going to be honest about this. And by the way, can I be very clear? This is not me criticizing Princess Eugenie or Beatrice, but they were quite rightly very worried about the mud that Harry and Meghan might sling at Prince Andrew, their beloved father. And you'll note, Brittany, that actually any criticism of him was very muted in Spare, virtually non-existent in the Netflix series. And that was in part because Eugenie had maintained this relationship with Harry. So there was a certain degree of her, I wouldn't go as far to say using the Sussexes, but she knew that if she was close, she could potentially protect her father from any more negative publicity.
Doubling down on past criticisms, Piers accused the couple of manipulating the media, branding them as publicity addicts who crave control but run from accountability. The broadcast went viral within hours, but this time Piers didn't stop at commentary.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I will say, having looked at their relationship, I don't think Beatrice and Harry were as close as Eugenie and Harry were. And so I think there was a bit of a difference in how the sisters interacted with him, but I can understand why he maybe was muted in his response to Andrew if he wanted to protect them. But at the same time, he didn't really protect his father or his brother. So I'm just wondering, as well as that, if he didn't have that many interactions with Andrew, he just didn't have that much he wanted to say on the matter because they are very self-obsessed in many ways. And so I think in a lot of ways, Andrew probably doesn't factor much on the scale to him at all, but he definitely, I think, is very sensitive, and we've heard this before, to comparisons between him and Andrew because they're both sort of considered the spare of their generations and the challenges that they've had, and Harry didn't want to turn into an Andrew, and yet has somehow turned out worse than Andrew in that pursuit, which again, all the irony here is really hard to ignore.
Indeed, he didn't want to be compared to the black sheep of the family, absolutely. But I think it is very telling, Brittany, and my reporting is that it certainly worked because, as you say, he had absolutely no problem going for Charles, going for Queen Camilla, going for Catherine, going for his brother, and Andrew really did avoid any serious criticism. Of course, the Piers Morgan issue is in part because he famously walked off Good Morning Britain after doubting Meghan Markle's tissue of lies during the Oprah Winfrey interview. And I think when it comes to that, Brittany, Piers has been proven right by history. She was lying.
Well, I mean, anybody who watched the interview who had any sort of understanding of how royalty works had to know that she was lying. There were certain instances, especially when it came to the children's titles and everything, where she's like, oh, he wasn't going to get one. Yeah, because the letter of patent says he wasn't going to get one. It's like right there. You can just read it. And she references it later in the interview. But what Meghan Markle was counting on is people being very ignorant of royalty, of how things work within the royal sphere. She was obviously playing very much to an American audience. And so that ignorance, I think, really did help her in that interview, which I think is very disappointing in a lot of ways that people maybe who follow royals don't know that much about them. But I think over time, it has been 100% proven that Meghan Markle was telling a whole lot of, let's say, half truths, mistruths, misdirections, you could argue lies in that interview. And as time has gone on, that's been proven more and more to be the case.
And Brittany, this picture painted in the Sun feature of Harry's life is very sad, totally isolated. His only friends now are the husbands of Meghan friends, who you know are reporting back to the Duchess. No plans to work with Netflix. One of his charities has now completely collapsed. And I would argue this is a picture of a guy who's deeply unhappy, not even entrusted by his father to get a tip off before the world that he's been in hospital. But actually,
Right.
my argument, Brittany, is he deserves this. Because actually, when you break that trust, it's impossible to get it back. And that's why so many of us warned Harry, if you cross those red lines in Netflix and in Spare, there is no going back. But the portrait printed of Harry in Montecito is certainly not the one that he tries to present as, oh, this is so brilliant and I don't miss the UK and I'm just so delighted to be here. Because that's not what your friends are saying.
Sources close to the Sussexes say he made inflammatory personal claims that crossed a line, and Harry is not letting it slide. Harry, insiders say, is furious.
Right. And it might be sunshiny and gorgeous weather in California, but you can also be absolutely miserable living there at the same time. And I think that's definitely the case for Harry. He was brought into this, I think, really having stars in his eyes. You know, he was really thinking, in my opinion, that Meghan was a big star when he married her. He really thought that they would come to Hollywood. You know, she would show him how to do things. They would be movers and shakers. And as he's done these things, he's realized, well, number one, he's not good at it. He's really not good at content production. Everything they've done is boring. And that goes on both of them because they've both been involved in most of their projects at this point. And he's just sort of miserable because he left his purpose, he left his family, he left his country, he left his heritage, so many different things because he was told that if he didn't do that, Meghan would maybe do something terrible to herself, that they would get divorced, something like that. And it's just been misery. And when you look at recent reports that Meghan really wants to be a billionaire, it's like so obvious that it's amazing he doesn't see it. Is that she saw dollar signs the entire time she was dating and in wedding marriage to him. It was all about the money. And so he might love her, but she only loved his money and his ability to maybe get her more of it. So if he's not aware of that by now, he should be. And the situation with his father, I mean, it depends on how long he was in the hospital. It might not be something where they felt he was going to stay there long enough to even deserve contacting him. And I think that makes sense. My parents have done the same thing to me. They're like, oh, we're real sick real early in the morning. They did go to the hospital and we don't only found out later in the day. So I don't think that's totally an indication of where things are at. We don't even know how early or if William was informed until after everything was done, how long he stayed. So I think there's some questions there. But yes, are they telling him anything important? No, definitely not.
No, and they're not even prepared to tip him off 5 minutes before the press statement goes out, which shows you the complete breakdown in trust. Harry isn't speaking to his family. He hasn't seen Charles since the PR stunt visit where he flew into London because he's so worried about his dad. Well, cancer doesn't just go away. And so actually, I knew that was a PR stunt at the time. It's proven to be a PR stunt now. What's one of the worst things for cancer? Stress. Yet Harry continues to choose to put his father through stress on a daily basis. I think it is shameful. But of course, yesterday, Brittany, we're meant to believe that Meghan Markle cares about the United Kingdom because we got this Mother's Day post and she posted some sort of lemon dessert, which again I thought looked revolting, my personal opinion. But she said our family tradition, Mothering Sunday in the UK. Now, Brittany, for our American viewers, we don't call it Mothering Sunday in this country. It's Mother's Day. And I think to even try and claim that she has any connection to a country that she clearly hates is just embarrassing. We didn't need that, Megsy.
We definitely did not. And I mean, even looking at the cake looks as fake as her love of the UK, let's be honest. And so it just didn't look all that good or appetizing or interesting. And we're supposed to believe that they're actually doing this today. I just totally don't buy it. The Kate looks awful. But yeah, she doesn't care about the UK. And she would if she was becoming queen or something like that, or they changed the line of successions and all of a sudden Harry was next in line for the throne, then she might care. But at this point, she definitely doesn't care about the UK. It's all for show, just like Instagram is. Instagram is a veneer of what you want people to see of you, not who you actually are. And that goes for pretty much everybody on Instagram. That's definitely 100% what Meghan is doing here. And it's just not very attractive or appealing. And she is so behind the game on the Instagram side. She is so like 10 years behind where people are on Instagram. It's really quite pathetic when you look at her account, how kind of dismal it is. And no wonder it's struggling to move. I haven't checked today, but it was stuck at 2.6 million for quite a while. And given her massive platform, why isn't her Instagram growing faster? It's because she's really struggling to get people to like her.
We're talking emergency phone calls, legal teams looped in, and a growing fear that Piers may have access to sensitive, off-the-record information from within the palace walls. One palace aide described Harry as being in damage control mode.
Yeah, she's still at 2.6 million, not to mention the number of bots, by the way, Brittany. But anyway, this was just a publicity stunt because ping into our email boxes today is this, and the launch gets closer. Meghan writes to us, Brittany, ever since I can remember, I've been dreaming up easy ways to elevate the everyday into the exceptional. I always knew I wanted to turn these ideas into something real and to make beautiful items that spark connection and celebrate quiet, meaningful moments, maybe mimic the magic of Montecito in a way us mere mortals, Brittany, us common people can recreate at home. And she says, I am so excited to introduce the As Ever collection to you this week. It's coming, folks. Every item is inspired by the ways I show care to the people in my life, like the lemon ginger tea blend, which is a fuss-free spin on the warm drink I make at home, using fresh lemons from the garden, or the crepe mix that transforms a typical weekend breakfast into a chance to reminisce. Crepes remind me of my time backpacking through France as a student, biting into these street-side thin pancakes filled with chocolate, fruit, fresh lemon and powdered sugar, or made savoury with ham and cheese. They are truly a canvas for flavour. I wanted to bring that memory and experience to you at home. Also, they're so easy to make. Of course. And then we get to the scam jam. Brittany, the scam jam, because she says, of course, you'll find the raspberry spread that started it all, presented in keepsake packaging that you can repurpose to tuck away love notes or special treasures and to remember this pivotal moment with me. Think of it as our time capsule. What is she talking about? And by the way, she's not finished, Brittany. She's not finished. I'm sorry. By the way, once you've enjoyed every spoonful of this fruit spread, it's not scam jam, you may want to do what I do. Rinse the jar and use it as a small bud vase for flowers on your nightstand or to hold your pens on your desk. Thank you, Meghan. I think I'm okay without that. I hope when you see what I've worked so hard to create, you're encouraged to know that whatever life brings, you can do it too. Your value, your creativity, your joy, that is you, as it's always been and always will be. You are you, as ever and forever.
Oh, gosh.
It's not over. Someone once told me that the biggest risk you can take is deciding not to take one at all. Now, after careful planning and preparing, while also parenting, because remember, Brittany, she doesn't just give the kids to nannies all the time. Okay, she is parenting, I promise. It's time to bring As Ever from my home to yours so you can make the everyday exceptional in an easy yet meaningful way. As ever, Meghan. What a load of bullshit.
So bad. I read that, like the email came through right before we came on and I was like reading through it going, this is the worst thing I've ever read. She's trying so hard to make her brand like make sense, because if you've started a company and you know like the brand name and everything should connect and like nothing is connecting, and so she's bending over backwards in the wording to try to like justify it and it still doesn't work. And she's also using, to note, these same pictures that she's already used in her Instagram like a month ago. So we have no new pictures of As Ever. And if she went backpacking in France, I would like a picture of that, because I do not see her backpacking in France or anywhere ever. That just doesn't seem to be her jam, if you will.
No, there's a little news story. there's a little news story that we've never heard before. Oh, the crepe time in France. Yeah, right.
Yes. Yeah, I don't believe that in the
Meghan
slightest.
Markle.
No, if backpacking means she put on a backpack and walked from her train station to the hotel, that would I imagine what she means by backpacking. I don't see her. She's not an outdoorsy person, really. So I just doubt she's traipsing through France, really backpacking through it. And it's also very self-obsessed. She's like, she's talking about love letters and what it represents to me and stuff like that. But it's like, but what are we supposed to do with this?
He's reportedly demanded a formal response from broadcasters and is even considering legal action again. Don't forget to click that subscribe button for more explosive royal drama, daily updates, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns you won't get anywhere else. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's next. Because with this family, anything can happen. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep questioning the crown.